Hey, it's Joker, and we don't get to own our games anymore. How fun is that? As of recording this, a few days ago, Nintendo made some TOS changes saying they have the right to render a console permanently unusable in part or in whole if you modify it, and that kinda sucks. I personally don't modify my hardware unless it is outdated, so I won't get affected by this, but it really sucks for people who do want to modify their consoles. On the bright side, Nintendo during the Switch 1 era never really gave a shit about people just modifying their console to add a theme or something. They only ever really pushed restrictions on accounts that used mods for online in games or for piracy. Either way, seeing them try to maintain the right to do this on people who simply just modify it for virtually no benefit whatsoever is pretty sketchy. Like, this is something I expected more from Sony than Nintendo, and Sony is probably the most anti gamer console manufacturer out there. I, like most other gamers, hate the path that we're going down, which is that we eventually won't get to own anything that we buy, and this TOS change is just another example of that. I never would have thought that the CEO of Xbox, which is owned by Microsoft, is somehow the most pro consumer of the top three. Anywho, back to Nintendo. Do I think this will be used a lot? No. But does that mean we shouldn't be mad? No. They want us to spend nearly $500 or more on this fucking thing on launch day. I don't want the risk of losing access to playing something I bought legally just in case I have a change of mind. However, I am of the opinion that people who pirate modern games should have consequences. But as someone who also deeply respects video game history and the advances that others have made to preserve it and allow it to be played on modern day hardware, I understand that some modern piracy needs to happen in order to maintain that. But why aren't we just restricting them from online functionality, like we did already on the original Switch? I thought the way they were doing it on Switch 1 was fine, and I have no reason to believe that they'll do it any other way unless the person is like a serial pirate. I'm of the understanding that people who are restricted from online on Switch 1 could still play physical games, but with cartridges now just downloading games onto the console, I'm not exactly sure what that means for the Switch 2. So personally, I wouldn't be worried about just adding a theme or whatever, but if you're planning on pirating games, which was a big problem on Switch 1, I would seriously reconsider. If someone doesn't pirate and still gets their shit bricked, please send it to me and I'll absolutely eat my words. But I think Nintendo has much bigger fish to fry than that. Unfortunately, this is just the way it is now until we either get a more pro consumer CEO of one of the big three, who could set a precedent of allowing people to own their games again, or someone who's younger currently eventually becoming a CEO, because generally, younger gamers right now are the ones being fucked over. But what do you think? Do you think there's a chance they roll this back? What will you do when they eventually do brick someone's console? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Joker. This has been a quick factor. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by.